Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Medium Unlimited, where we get to explore design, photo, and video. We have been exploring photo editing for a couple of episodes. I hope you've been enjoying the deep dive. This is a chill session exploring a photo editing series where I got to photograph the outdoors. Not very me to photograph only outdoors. So it's a bit of a challenge for me as well. Hope you get to join in into the tune of the music and edit alongside with me. I'll drop in a couple tips along the way, but open up your Lightroom and join me right in. All right. Hey, welcome, Jimmy from Maryland. That's awesome. Welcome in. Hope you get to jump in on this editing session. This is my evenings, folks. I love editing on my evenings, kind of nice and cozy. Not more responsibilities, nobody bugging me. But it's evening for me. What time is it for you? If you're in another part of the world, let me know. Over here. There you go. Much better. Adjusting a couple things here. All right, folks, let me share with you my photo series that I've got here. Some of these photos I've dived into a little bit already. I wanted to get a sense of the color relationships that all the photos were going to have. It's often something I question myself, especially when it comes to a photo series. We have done a couple edits on this on the iPad on previous photo sessions. So if you haven't been able to join some of those, I do have the restreams available on my YouTube channel, so you can check those out. Hey, what's up, Humble Paul? What a cool name. Very sweet name. All right, let me know if you hear the music or if I have to crank it up a little bit louder. I'm jamming out to this music. I didn't think I was gonna keep it because it's like house music in the evenings, but you know what? I like it. I'm into it. All right, folks, let's get to know each other. Wrong place. Sanlagos.com. Here we go. Let's open this up. All right, folks, for those of you who may not be familiar with my work, my name is Sin Lagos. I am a photographer, studied graphic design, taught myself photography, and taught myself video editing. Quite the feat, I know. But it does take time and it does take a lot of discipline. And most of all, it takes a lot of experimentation, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, I explore all of those three mediums. I find that I often use them for different spaces in my career, oftentimes together. So it definitely helps to have a little bit of insider in those three pillars. It's been very helpful for me in my development. But the core focus that I love to have is photography, because it's one of those places that has always given me so much bounty. And I often find myself right back into photos, right? So I have a series called Portraits with Friends that I also explore here on YouTube and on Behance on Wednesdays. So you can check those out here on my website if you want to watch the replays. They will all be here also. Really cool stuff. And if you want to support my YouTube journey, you can check that out. I've been choosing to be brave this year and venture out into this world of YouTube. The only way I know how, which is through education. So I've got myself my profile, and I've been very bold this year in sharing all of my work here. So check that out and support my journey along the way. I would really appreciate that. Quite a quest, I will not lie, but it's been fun so far. I've been really enjoying that. Awesome. So I'm going to dive right into these, and let's see. Raise the volume a little bit here on the music. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into these. I have a good number of photos here that have challenged me. So as you can see, some of these photos are close-ups of the environment. This is a preview of a photo that I just edited. So before and after. Oftentimes, I treat my photo series in the same way that I would treat my video capture. So I try to take a photo that is wide as well as photos that are close up. And that's just what I find that is very helpful in my practice. And this way I'm able to cover as much ground as I can, especially if I know I can't see that place more than once. In this case, I can because it's my current home. This is Austin, and this day was so phenomenal. We had a bit of rain kind of hit us towards the end, which was super cool to explore. My friend here is doing a little bit of juggling also, so we got to capture some of those shots. And I definitely want to be able to cover as much ground as possible, especially when I'm coming out and testing some of my cameras. I love getting to know my equipment through just casual photography, casual video recording. It could be anything, but the goal is to treat it like it's just a normal day and no expectations, just experimentation. Do you know what I mean? So I often find myself taking photos from wide as well as close-ups to gauge the opportunities. And this is a day, like I said, it rained. It was super cool when it rained in that very moment, because of course it did not stop us. We continued to be outside and continue to play. It's just another blessing, really, because on days like this, when we're slacklining, there's a lot of work that goes into it, right, from the beginning to end. So rigging is a whole thing. So you want to be there as long as possible to be able to take advantage of all that effort that it took to put it together. So raining is just another blessing, another challenge, I would say. And I love that I had my camera in hand in that moment. I wasn't on the line. Unfortunately, that would have been a cool experience. I haven't actually been on the line while it rained yet. I'll let you know when that happens. But it was cool to have my camera in hand, ready as can be, with my zoom lens, and I was able to capture some really nice shots. You can see the texture of the rain on that one, which is so cool to capture in a still photo. Hello, Kindrake. Kindrake is joining us 2:11 a.m. over here, says Kindrake. Oh my God, where are you? Are you in the UK? Is that what time it is there? Yeah, I'm playing it late today because I had a lot of things to do, and I got them all done, which is a good feeling. Running your own business is intense, y'all. So here's my wife having this beautiful smile in that moment because she realized that day was our anniversary. She's like, look, it rained on our wedding anniversary too. It's so cool. So it was awesome to have my camera in hand. Like I said, there's certain beautiful moments that we can only honor through still photography. I think it doesn't quite, nothing else can do it except photography. Do you know what I mean? It's it really freezes a moment and it will forever be there. And there's nothing like it. That's why I respect this craft so much. And most of all, I try to rebuild that relationship, I have with this craft. And I think that's something that I'm currently reconnecting with. All right, let's jump in one of these shots and see which one we want to edit. I definitely found myself needing to edit some of these shots. Let's see. I love this close up. That's me falling. A good moment to fall is when you're exhausted and you're done with it. But here's a nice moment where I was about to stand there on that one. That one was a hard one. But you just go for it every single time, you know, and you try your best. And I think some of these shots are epic. I did a little bit of stretching up on the leash, which was nice. Oh, you're in Nigeria. That's so cool. You know, a lot of people tell me, am I from Nigeria? Because my last name is Lagos, but I'm not. I'm from Honduras, but I still love the compliment that people know that. And Lagos is a cool, you know, it's a cool last name to have. Lagos means lakes in English, for those of you who may not know. So it's the one Spanish word I love teaching people. Okay, so let's start exploring some editing here and some of these shots. I want to try to see how many opportunities I have to change color hues on something like this. Okay, so I do have a couple portraits here that I've been meaning to edit. Let's see if I can find some of them here. Yeah, some of these shots are definitely have been on my list that I've got to do. So I like this shot. I like that she's looking head on, straight on. I don't know if her eyes are quite looking at my lens because it's fairly dark. So I would say that when I look at photos, I'm looking for something that I can save, as well as, like, especially in the photo post-editing process, but also is the composition worth like diving into, right? Because the composition here, I'm gonna go in full mode here. You can see we've got her on the right hand side, not quite center, which is totally fine, but we've got like a missing balance thing. So that's a bummer. I often like to keep everything in frame, but this was quite hard to do, especially when I was right in front of her and I have a zoom lens. So I do like this photo nevertheless, because I think she has complete eye contact with me, but I can't tell. So let's see if we can find a better candidate. Okay, this has both of them in there, and then we got a couple variations here. So in some of these, I found it to be helpful to focus on her, and some of them I focused on the background. So let me show you what I mean by that. So for example, this one, I'm gonna do a 5 on this one, just to maybe a 4. 4 unedited, almost there. It's a B, but it's not an A+ just yet. This music is dope. Oh, that one's cool too. I'm gonna set it as a 4. Oh, that's cool. I think there are some, I notice here that if I scroll right down here where the little bar is, it's gonna scroll really fast across. But if I scroll on the picture, it scrolls a little bit slower and a little bit kinder, less abrupt. Okay, so let's get back to this photo here. Here you are. So I think I'm gonna start with this one. One of these is gonna be it. Okay, so for example, in this one here, she is in focus. In this one, she's not, because I was trying to get the vanishing point of the bridge. I think I accomplished it in one of these shots also. So let's do a few of these vertical shots here. Ooh, I love this one. So let's do this one. You can see a lot of the rain on her hat. That's looking really, really dope. I can remove this on the left-hand side since I no longer need the sources of my assets. I can just focus on the properties. All right, let's play around here. You know something I haven't used in a little while? The point color. Let's play with the point color. All right, so I'm gonna grab the point color real quick to play with the green hues. Ooh. So it all depends what kind of style you like. A lot of people like very muted tones. So let's approach a mute tone edit and see what could happen here. So let's do a little bit closer to gray as opposed to vibrant green. That looks nice before, after. So before it was a little bit saturated, more on the primary green. Sweet. Okay, so let's play a little bit with any color that's visible here also. So this point color is very good at selecting a specific hue. So it shouldn't blend this green with this green, right? Because it's slightly bluer, definitely a different hue, right? It's that specific. So we can play here and change the saturation, the visibility of that bridge. So we're looking at this right here. Bringing some attention to that vanishing point line that we have here, which is really cool to see. Hi everyone, for those of you just joining us, we're editing in Adobe Lightroom. You're welcome to open up Lightroom also and edit alongside with me. This is a very chill session. Thank you for joining me. We're live, so jump on the chat. Let me know what time is it where you are. Where are you joining us from? I'm joining you from Austin, Texas. So thank you for being here, and hopefully you learn a thing or two alongside with me. Okay, so far, using the point color on the greens is giving us a little bit more variety, so everything doesn't look flat, right? So just slightly subtle. Here's the thing with Lightroom, everything is subtle, very, very much so. All right, let's play with the skin tones. Let's eyedrop that. Now you can see it's a whole nother color hue. And we can play with the hue itself to warm up that skin. -8. Increase that saturation just so she stands out, most of all. Increase that luminance also. So I noticed in order to maintain skin tone, if somebody's of a darker skin tone, before I raise the luminance, which effectively increases that light and makes them look lighter, you got to be kind of careful because you want to keep that color of their skin as much as possible. So what I like to do is bring the hue just a little bit down, like a -4, -8, and then increase that luminance. And bring up the saturations as well, because the saturation is going to compensate for that lightness that you're giving by introducing the luminance. Change that song. Okay, so that song's better, I think. Okay, so now that's looking much better than before, right? We've got a bit of separation between her and the background. In fact, I might revisit some of these colors, and we still have them here, so we can revisit them. Yeah, so I think I'm gonna desaturate that green a little bit here. Desaturate. So we have that nice tonality. Oof, that's looking really good, I think. Yeah, I don't know, desaturated versus saturated. I can't really decide, but I think I'm gonna create a version from here just to make sure I can always come back to this variation, green one. Okay, that's looking good. And now we can continue editing, knowing that we can always go back to that spot. Okay, now the sky is not giving me much. It's just absolute white. Now, I do have a curiosity of whether there's any information left in that white. So what I might do here is I'm gonna go into the, I'm looking for curves. I'm looking for curves, friends. Okay, wait. So curves is under light, right? So in here, is there any more information? I highly doubt it. I can tell because the histogram is telling me so. So the shadows are very dark. The highlights are very, very much peaking here. But I kind of had to because I was under a bridge. So a lot of shadows were there and I needed my subject to be illuminated in some way. So I was okay with foregoing that sky, but I wonder if there's still any information in there. Yeah, there's a little bit of clouds, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference in this case. So I'm just gonna keep it this way. I think that will probably be the best option for now. And let's see, I might add a little bit of color in the shadows. So let's do that. Let's go into effects. Let's go into colors. All right, colors, color grading is where we want to go. So let's go into color grading, and I love adding some color in here. We're gonna go into, let's see, what's the strongest here? I think shadows are the most strong element here. I think it's very high contrasted here. So I might add a little color into those shadows so it doesn't feel like a pure black into those shadows, right? So let's give it a shot. A little bit of blending into those shadows. Also, never skip this step, honestly, because I think the blending helps so it doesn't feel like a coat of a filter. It feels more like it's blending in with the midtones and the highlights also. Oof, that looks really pretty, I think. What do you guys think? Okay, so this is before. Let's go into full mode. Here's the after, right? So it's starting to give it more of a very muted look, which is what we were looking for. I think it's neat. It looks more film-like, and the photo itself being in nature, I think it's a good fit. But we can always try a different approach. So let's go into the versions again and save this as muted tones. Boom. All right, and since we're here already, I think I'm gonna go into this little plus sign and add a filter called, I'm gonna call it slack line muted tones, and save it into my folder, right? So I can save all of those different properties as a preset. What's up, Ofe? Hello from Argentina. What time is it in Argentina? Wow, that's amazing. I imagine daytime still? Don't know, but that's awesome. Thank you for being here. So far we've got our muted tone now as a filter, so we can always apply it to another variation, and we can just focus on finding those compositions and applying this filter right into it. So let's go into my filters under Sin Lagos. We're gonna find a variation of filters. I have so many, I always make one. In any photo session that I'm in, I make at least one filter. So let's go look for, what do we call it? Slackline muted tone. So there it is. So now we got the slackline muted tones directly applied into this composition. Let's try it on this one. Slackline muted tones. Of course, we can revisit it and adjust the lighting per section, right? So something like that. Now let's explore some of these horizontal versions and see if it could be a good example here. So let's do slackline muted tones Wow, let's look at this before and after. Nice. So that makes it look really calm, as the environment was also. But if we want to try something opposite of calm and muted, we can also do that. So let's give it a try. All right, so I'm going to go here and go into original for this shot. And begin to add back a little bit of color. So this time we're not going to shy away from adding saturation, luminance. This time it's the opposite, right? We're, instead of removing and muting it, we're going to make it feel a little bit bolder. So let's see how we can challenge ourselves to make that happen. So for example, let's select the sky here. Oh, Jimmy's joining us from Maryland also. Oh, right. I saw that one as well. Okay, cool. So now we have the sky selected, right? Yes, there we go. So black is hiding, and then whatever is in white is what's most visible to the properties changes. Okay. So let's give that a try. Now we're going to change the properties a little bit so we can bring some color into that sky, and we can directly use colorize to add blues into a sky that has no information, right? So we can just add a little bit of blue in there, add a little bit of saturation, so we're not shying away, so we're shifting gears. Let's see. Now we have a little bit of blue in there that we can play with. And now let's see how we're going to edit the overall photo. Let's go into curves and go into our regular curve line to the parametric curve is what I have selected right now to just increase the lighting in our environment. Pulling up from the shadows, pulling up from the highlights. So before, after. Now let's play with our red channel and increase that contrast from the center. Do it on the green channel also and on the blue channel. Now this here might start looking a little bit weird, but once you add all three channels, it begins to feel more uniform. So the goal is to attain a graph that is the same across all three channels. So if I change this graph to have this curve, kind of like an S curve, but mostly heavy on the top, then I want to achieve the same goal here. So effectively creating color contrast along all three channels. Like I said, we're not shying away. We're increasing color, we're increasing contrast. It's a different approach altogether. Before, after. You let me know which one feels like a better fit, from the muted tones to a little bit more boldness. All right, so let's lower those highlights a little bit too. So you notice our mask kind of lost its flare. Let's bring down the exposure on our mask so we can have that blue back. Do you see it there? It's working. What's up, Ted, on YouTube? What's that icon? I can't tell, but thank you for being here. That's so cool. All right, so we've got this hyper contrast on this image, and we're going bold this time around. Same approach. Let's visit the gradient map. Let's go over here under gradient map, under the color grading. I taught about gradient maps today and my brain is haywiring. Okay, so color grading. Let's add a little bit of color back into the midtones. Maybe something warm, since this whole thing is very cool and collected. So maybe a little bit of orange. Okay. Now let's play with the balance. Oof. Lots of color in here. And let's see if we can add some color in the shadows also. Remember, don't skip the balance because that's the best part to unify everything. And a little bit of blending here too. All right, again, before and after. A little bit bolder, a little stronger. It's hot here with highlights because of the columns being so bright, so it does bug me a little bit, but I think I can correct that with a mask. Let's crop this in for straightness and go in here into a brush. Maybe let's do a linear gradient so we can just obscure this area, which at the moment is really hot. It's like too much luminance, right? So let's make sure the white shows. That's the area that's been selected. And let's bring that down, that exposure on that left-hand side. Alternatively, we can also create a spotlight on her. So let's do a radial gradient right here. Something like this. So the gray area or the black area means it's not selected yet, but this area is. But you can already see the effect happening, right? We are focusing solely on the subject because of that radial gradient. So we're going to do that by making sure that radial gradient is inverted first. So let's invert by clicking the 3 buttons, invert or Command I, either one. And so that means this is not selected, but the outer area is. So we can lower the exposure of the outer area just so that she feels more emphasized. We can even desaturate the outer area and more emphasis shines on her, right? So here's before, here's after. Let's do this without the radials. Let's before, after. A little bit bolder, still kind of arrives at a similar color palette. I'm not gonna lie, because it's just the nature of the photo. The photo is playing with mostly green hues, black hues. So there's only so much we can do here in that sense. But I'm gonna start as a 5 now and make sure I have a version named. And I'm gonna call this one Bold Nature on that one. There you go. Okay, so let's explore another scene here. We've got this really cool scene, and I think I'm gonna play with the original just to, let me see. Actually, save this one. We'll call it vintage, and then try an original again. So I love this shot because I was trying to get them to all stand up at the same time. So yeah, I don't think I achieved that, but I like the variations of shots nevertheless. So I think I'm gonna go with one of these. Definitely this one, I think. What do y'all think? Between this crop and this crop looks better. I think it is better, and the best way to find out is when you look with a grid on. So let's turn on the golden ratio or rule of thirds and make sure that our crossing points are in important points of interest. So for example, this crossing point is exactly on one of my subjects of interest. This crossing point is in another, and this crossing point is in nothing. Neither is this, but it's a little bit close to my third subject. So it's not so bad, but we can improve it, like having them in the center and having my third subject in the crossing point. It secures that our viewer will navigate our photo in the same way. So that's the goal there, right? So press enter. Yes, Ted is asking, am I streaming elsewhere or just on YouTube? I'm streaming also on Behance. So for those of you who are on YouTube, thank you for being on YouTube as well. But I also stream on Behance, and we have a chat going there also. So if you want to join the community on Behance, you're welcome. That's a really cool community, and we get to explore both channels here. So either way is awesome, I think. So here we go. Let's see. We've got this cropping in place. I think from here, I'm dying to add some color into this really, really dark abyss that it looks here, even though the dark abyss is kind of working in our favor and kind of accomplishing that feeling of, hey, look at them. They're high up. They're about 30 feet high. So yeah, I think that's an effect we want people to feel in some regard. So I'll paint it, but I won't go too far so that shadow, that the shadow still feels kind of subtly ominous, which I'm fine with because it does kind of feel like that in real life. Ooh, adding a little bit green to the shadows feels just right. Looking good there. Ted, hey, nice to see you on Behance also. I was like, who's talking to since? Yes, thanks for joining on Behance. It's nice little scroll over, little journey over. So we've painted the shadows so far, and then now we're gonna go into midtones. So if you ever wonder if you can effectively do an edit by just using color grading, yes, you can. Like just by painting the midtones and highlights and shadows, yes, you can. So far I've got green on my shadows, I've got orange on my midtones, and I want a different color on my highlights. Let's see what we can do here without doing overkill, right? Let's see if we can go over to a warm tone and play with the luminance of that warm tone. So if you see here, now our highlights have a color as well. So it has that little pink hue on it that you often get from film. Used to feel like an error, but now it's kind of nice. So I think I'm gonna keep that. I definitely want to increase the overall light in this photo. So let's try that out. Let's play with the curve. Increase it a tad bit. That's much better, right? From here to here. Let's do a little bit of increase on the blacks, and you can see so much information comes back into this image. Before it just looked like a dark abyss, but now it's a dark abyss with a lot of trees, which is interesting. So increasing those shadows or those blacks is going to be important. And so we have a little bit more information on this one. Let's see, increase those highlights a little bit. No, decrease them. That looks good. That's looking good. So before and after. I think there's another available crop here. If I go even closer, I might have more symmetry. What do you guys think? I think somewhere there. Now we can cover all three of them. It's almost like playing bullseye. Like, how can I get my marks to land right where I want them to? And sometimes you have to sort of forego some of your photo. So all of this would be gone. But if the composition feels better, it's nice. It's a good option. I like that. I do think that we need a little bit of detailing back into the photo. So let's do some sharpening in here. A little bit more detail. So you can see the lines, you can see shapes a little bit more on the texture. I'm gonna do this at a 5 now. I feel good about that one. Yeah, that feels good. Okay, so now we've taken this one from a 4 to a 5. We got some cool vertical shots also. I love doing some framing, and here are some of my favorites that I did where I did a little bit of framing. So for example, a lot of them are vertical. I don't know why I did all the verticals in framing, but I did. Let's see if I can find those. Ooh, these shots are cool too. They're a little bit dark, but this is nice also. This is another thing that I like to do is put elements in the foreground. So you are framing based on the Z axis. So you got foreground, you got midground, and then background, right? So foreground, midground, background. Let's edit this one again. Let's duplicate this shot just so you can see my process, and revert this one back to original, and so you can see how that edit happened. All right, so this one has a little bit more sky. I feel like if it has a little bit of sky, it's a positive note. I can play with color a little bit more flexibility. Even in the histogram, you can see how much flexibility we've got in color ratio than the other shots, right? This whole thing was flat. Now it has so much variety. So let's play with the color here. Let's do a little bit of color mixer into this one. So let's jump into the target adjustment tool and jump directly into the sky. Make that sky a little bit teal, a little bit of color. Increase that saturation so we can see the city of Austin in the back, so that looks cool. Of course, it's going to affect other areas because they also have a little bit of that same tint. And using the same target adjustment tool, we're going to switch it over so that our contextual bar says luminance instead of saturation, instead of hue, and make sure that that luminance it's around just about the end, so it's a little bit more contrasted. Okay, so now let's work with the light from here directly from the contextual bar. We can also work on the tonality of the lights. So using the target adjustment tool and selecting any area here, you can mitigate how much light is in your shot instead of using the curves or instead of using directly the essential exposure, contrast, all of those. You can do it directly on the screen, which is really cool to do. So I love using the target adjustment tool on this curve mode directly from the contextual bar. Let's go in here and bring it. I think that's a little too much. Let's go into, I think that looks good. A little bit contrast there. And let's play with maybe this area right here. So if I select the shadow, I'm targeting only the shadows. If I select the highlights, I'm targeting only the highlights. Looking good. Oh, can we just pay attention to this cutie pie? Whoa. Okay, so let's go into a little bit of color tinting, and I'm going to use the target adjustment tool in this case. And this way I can create a linear gradient. And I like the idea of creating linear gradients because it lets me apply color wherever I want. And so I'm gonna do a little bit of warmth in here. So I'm gonna change the temperature a tad bit and play around with the tonality only in this bottom area where the mask is in. So let's do a little bit of that, a little bit of saturation, and we're only targeting this. We can do the same approach for the sky. So let's do another linear gradient and apply it from the top. And if we increase or decrease those shadows, that changes that sky also. So I'm basically adding color back in here. Those colors weren't actually there because I had to expose for the people as opposed to the city in the background. But that is looking cool. We can also add a color in here. So if you wanted to add something back in there, you can, something like that. But I think I don't need the color thing right now. So we've sandwiched two gradients from the top and from the bottom. So we have these additional colors in here without affecting our subject matters right in the center. And so that's looking good for me. Let's look at the before and here's after so far. I can't help but use the color wheels. I can't skip that step. I feel like I have to go back to the color wheels. It feels like something I use too much. I'm trying to do it in a different way, but I'm like, you know what? Why try to change a good thing? So let's go into the color grading. And let's go into these handy ways to add a bit of creativity into those boring black shadows and those boring gray midtones, and just add a little color in there, you know? Why wouldn't you want to do that? Those boring white highlights. Let's add a little bit of color. There you go. Okay. All right, so that's looking good so far. I'm loving this shot. Look at this. This is the before, and this is the after. Super chill, right? So these are changes that I do to my photo editing, to my photo series, especially when they're in nature, and I oftentimes have to compensate for, you know, having to overexpose a sky to get just the right light into the subjects. But yeah, some of my favorite compositions are framing, being able to create depth in foreground, midground, and background. So that's really cool. Really cool shots here. If I go here on the left-hand side, it tells me my recent edits, so I can revisit anything that I've worked on today. This is a shot that I really like, and I think I'm gonna share it to my profile so that the community can play with it and explore how they can also remix and edit this photo. So let's go into share to community. Let's call this one chill hangouts. Chill hangouts. Exploring editing of the outdoors. Try it yourself. And by try it yourself, I mean we can enable this to be remixed. So I can click that on and allow for remixing. So other users, other folks that are in Adobe Lightroom can also edit this photo from its raw photo to whatever variation they can find. And I'm curious about that because I think I struggle a little bit with outdoor photography just because it tends to be the same color palette quite often. So finding that fingerprint can be a little bit tricky. So I'm gonna allow remixing. I'm also going to, let's allow a save as preset here. So you can save this color palette. You can go over there and save this color palette whenever you want. Include location, probably not, but let's hit share. So that share is gonna take a little bit to happen. Ooh, that was actually fast. I've got great internet, folks. All right, so let's go into the shots here. This is gonna take a little bit to work actually, but let me show you what happens, right? So anytime you want to go into this section, you're probably like, is that Adobe Lightroom? Hold on, what's going on? So this is a section that lives within your Adobe Lightroom app, the cloud version. So you can always go into community and find all of the different things that people have that have been basically all the photos and all of the editing workflow. So when you browse through these images, you can see the process of the photos, right? So you can see how somebody went about editing this photo. So if we go to my profile and explore this scene, for example, you can see I opened this scene for remixing. And it's so cool because some people have already remixed it. So we've got a black and white variation. We've got this variation. We've got this one too. That's so awesome. So when we play this edit, you can see how I went about editing this photo. You can see there's a couple masks that were used in order to create this photo color. It's very blue green, which I really like. I have that framing composition also in there too, and a little bit of cropping too, right? So then when we go to the remix, we get to also watch their replay. A little bit of exposure, a little bit of highlights. All right, really cool. And you can see here the profile of the person who remixed it. So dope. I'm gonna like that one because I love that somebody took time to remix my photo. So let's go back here to my profile. Let's see if this one is ready. And we get to watch how this one was done, right? So if you're ever in that learning process where you're just wondering, how did someone arrive at that edit? I mean, oftentimes that's kind of like the mysterious part, right? Then you can jump on here and investigate, essentially use them as case studies to explore how you can play with your edits too. It might all lie in like the color grading tool, right? It could be very much using a lot of point curves or a lot of masks also, as you saw in my previous photo. There's so many ways to approach a post editing that it's really cool to open it up to a community so that they can also remix it and explore it. So I welcome you to remix this one. I'm going to share this link I'm going to share it on YouTube. So if you want to go and visit that and explore it, you can check it out.